Mr Ferguson, Member for Mass.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Speaker. In my short time available, I want to cover a few subjects. The first is to reflect on a question I asked in the House this morning, and the Minister for Education and Skills, who has given an answer today. I thank him for his answer. A couple of things that I'd like to say about this. The Drysdale Institute, which was part of the old TAFE, which the Labor government got rid of, and split off into the Skills Institute and the Tasmanian Polytechnic. Today in the north, Drysdale House, which has been for a long time very successful in the Charles Street building beside the Launceston General Hospital, and presumably by necessity of wanting to gain access to that, I think 5 or so story building, and for that to be taken advantage of for the Health Department, and perhaps for some Labor vanity to build another building, because they love doing that. We've had a problem now with the mismatch of closing the old and opening the new. They've completely stuffed it up, Mr Deputy Speaker, and as a consequence of closing the Charles Street campus on the 7th of April, as we've learned, and for the Institute not to have its new building ready for students until the 20th of June, that 10-week gap now in training opportunities for young people and adults alike is very regrettable indeed. I think the Minister has skipped over the significance of this. He tried to suggest that somehow I'd made a false allegation in saying that students weren't able to learn. Well, of course they can learn their theory. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but the whole point of Drysdale is that it's practical skills training. Theory is important, but the trades training that can only be made possible with a commercial kitchen is the obvious missing link. It was very embarrassing for the Minister this morning that he obviously had no idea about what, for many people who are the students there and trainees, is very significant. And I think the government should be very embarrassed about that. It's bad enough that the poor planning behind it has led to this situation and won't be rectified until the 20th of this month. But it's actually worse that as late as today, the Minister has not been in a position to show any leadership to quickly fix this situation and was just not involved at all. And I want to throw out this couple of challenges to the government. First of all, in a press statement that the Minister for Health made to the Examiner, I think in February this year, she made it plain that they'd enter into lease agreement of a kind with the Polytechnic that would allow them to stay there till the 30th of June if they needed to. So it's a massive stuff-up. They've interfered and interrupted and disrupted the important learning of students there. And I was very disappointed that the Minister in his response tonight gave absolutely no mention of any attempt by the Polytechnic to try and find a replacement commercial kitchen somewhere in the Launceston area. And I could think of no better example than the former campus of the Australian Technical College that the former Minister for Education and Skills, Lynn Thorpe, so successfully euthanased last year. The second issue I want to touch on is the very poor performance of this government over here, which has allowed, the former Premier David Bartlett and former Education Minister, whose whole career was built on spin and hype, went around telling us all how Tasmania was going to be the next Silicon Valley of the world, took his $90,000 trip to America, and I'm pretty sure he had his CV in his back pocket, and promised us that we'd have visits from Google, Cisco and Microsoft and goodness knows who else. But at estimates last year, Mr Deputy Speaker, at estimates last year across the table, I just asked the then Minister for Innovation, Science and Technology, would he provide an assurance? Would he provide an assurance that schools in the Stage 1 rollout towns of Scottsdale, Smithton and Midway Point would be the first connected to the NBN? I was shocked after tabling my question number 53 and finally getting an answer. I was shocked to find out that none of them have, to this date, got access to it at all. And one school in the northwest, lucky for you, Mr Brooks, one school only has one classroom connected on a trial basis. That this government would allow that to happen is a massive indictment, and that even that trial classroom is only getting 25 megabits down and 2 up. So useless for a lot of the applications that have been trumped and talked about. Somehow Tasmania would have first mover advantage. This government has failed, utterly failed. And you've hoodwinked the community into thinking that somehow you're showing the sort of leadership that could result in an improved education system and an improved economy. It's been built, it's a sham, it's been built on hype and spin, and I want the Minister to get to work immediately to find out what are the contractual issues with their existing service provider and deal with it. Otherwise, what opportunity has this state got to demonstrate the improvements that broadband access, broadband infrastructure can bring to educational outcomes? It just makes a mockery of the fact that they boasted that we're going into regional communities first because they'd be the ones that need it the most. They have failed. And I've just been inundated with parents and people in the communities who have been shocked to find this out. It's been the best kept secret by this government, and they should be absolutely ashamed of themselves, especially given the exchange I had with the former Premier at Estimates. What a sham he was. I'm glad he's gone. Well, on those very negative, well, this parliament's a much better place without him. I'm so glad Sturgeon's back. I really am. Mr. Deputy Speaker, well, you can call it personal because you have this amazing ability to take offence on behalf of other people. But I say to you, Minister, I say to you that the former Premier hoodwinked this Parliament, and he had the people of Tasmania for a while because he built his career on hype and spin.
I said it was personal and it was nasty. And
I'd like to close tonight by just making mention of a policeman by the name of Neil van Veldhuizen, who has been a pillar of policing in northern Tasmania. I just want to change the subject over to this in the minute or so I have left, and to say that he as he now retires from the force, has been a great role model to so many people. He's been a very effective policeman, risen to the rank of sergeant. I got to know him best in his work at the northern suburbs, particularly based at Newnham Station.
Member's time has expired.
The kids greatly admired him, and I wish him a very happy retirement.